Mama Bear's mad that he's sitting on the bench instead of playing.
Mama Bear ain't happy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Mama Bear's not
And
happy.
the only person
Nobody's
she
happy.
complains to is me. So.
College World Series.
No. Honestly, I don't really watch a whole lot of baseball unless my son's on.
We're at 4 o'clock.
How do you, sir? Good.
Whatever your pleasure. I don't think it matters. Sure. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special workshop of the Lynn Haven City Commission beginning at 4 o'clock. We will have our regularly scheduled Lynn Haven City Commission meeting at 6 o'clock, so you may want to step out for popcorn or something at some point to keep yourself nourished through this long evening. But we do have important work to do. Thank you all for being here. If you're a member of the public or if you are one of the applicants for the position of city manager, this is a single issue public workshop. In other words, during this workshop, we will not be discussing anything that's on the city commission agenda this evening. It will be a single issue workshop about the city manager. I do want to say that we are all extremely grateful for the work that City Manager Joel Schubert has done for the city for the past 3 years plus a little. And he has been working diligently for the last month or so, trying to get things in line as he leaves. And we've had several discussions, he and I'm assuming that all of you probably have too at different times about the timeliness of trying to get this done so that we don't have a lapse of continuity in the city. So we're going to push forward and work today, and I'd like to welcome the news media as well. Thank you for being here to be part of this discussion. So I did, and City Attorney, please feel free to, if I do something that is not in line with what I should as far as this workshop concerning the hiring of a city manager, please just reach out and tap me and tell me to hold on for a minute, and I'll accept your admonitions or praise or be quiet. and that's what I understood. And I had a proposal that I wanted to throw out, and if one of you fellow commissioners have a proposal or Mr. City Manager that you would like to throw out that you think is maybe more timely, better, another system, I'm certainly open to that. My proposal, I brought these little sheets of paper, and I was thinking that perhaps to get us started, if each of the commissioners and the city manager as well took a sheet of paper and listed your top applicants that after all of you studied the resumes, I'm sure as I have, and not sign your name, not do anything, just list those, and then we just kind of put them in the middle and see what we come up with if we have some cross-reference. That's just my suggestion. We could start there. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any objections? Or
I would say that...
and here we go.
Got to have a name on it.
There are very few rules, but one of the rules are if you create a public record, it needs to be...
So we can, if we had this in the middle, we know that it's the city commission, but we have to individually sign it as well, you think?
Initials on there.
Okay.
I can collate them, or the city manager can collate them without giving away who's thinking what, but the records...
Well, if we initial them, though, they become, I mean, so...
Can
so
I make a counter?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
When we done this last time, basically each commissioner just mentioned, and Rob kept a tally of who we all thought in the top 5. No particular order, just in who we thought in those top 5. I would suggest and propose that we follow that same format. That way it's out in the open and we don't have to keep another piece of paper that somebody could do a public records request with.
Okay. Commissioner, for anybody else, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm open.
Well,
to
I wasn't
one,
proposing that
honestly.
we hide these by any means.
Yeah,
I was
no,
just thinking it was
I'm a little
a way
loud.
that we could...
Yeah, no, no, of course not. Yeah, I mean, if city attorney, I think, did that last time, I do recall something similar to that, for sure.
I can review what we did last time, if that's what y'all would like to hear or not.
And we have 2 new commissioners as well who don't know what we
Sure.
did last time as well as me. I wasn't here,
Exactly.
so
Sure.
they may have some input as to.
Yeah, whatever y'all think as
There's a
well.
lot, there aren't any rules, I think my microphone's working. There aren't any rules how to go about this. I have seen in the past that one thing that does not work real well is just someone making a motion and second and voting on
Yeah.
somebody. To build a coalition, like the commission wants to do and tries to do, it's generally to do something like the mayor is suggesting, where you pick without ranking people.
Right.
And so what we did last time, and I think that it's basically the same process that the city managers proposed this time, except maybe with one step eliminated. We originally started off with just 5. I think each commissioner went down and listed the 10 or about 10 people, that 5 or 10 people that they were interested in speaking with further. And as you go through each commissioner, what will happen is that we won't end up with just 5, we'll end up with 10 or something. And then if you want to continue that, you can debate and discuss it, and then go down to a process like the mayor was saying, where you can put on a sheet of paper, your top 3, and then out of those 3 typically comes out 5 or 7 or so, and then y'all can discuss. What will typically happen is that somebody will be on everybody's list. That person's probably going to get interviewed. There'll be some people who don't get any votes at all. Those people are not going to get interviewed. It's the ones in between that y'all discuss and talk about what you thought was the strengths and the weaknesses of each candidate. And in the end, you come down with a number, whatever y'all want to interview, which I think, from what the city manager was saying, was about 4 or 5, whatever. And then I think there's some interviews scheduled. So it's a combination of what both y'all are suggesting. And I think the first step we did last time was just everybody just say, hey, I looked at the applications and these are the people that I'm interested in talking to. And if there's a why or not, then we just go through and check each one.
Sure.
And at the end, there'll be somebody that has a lot of votes and some people that don't have any votes. And we just eliminate it down from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
The only thing I was hearing that is a little disconcerting to me is I know that 5 is a popular number, but I mean, I had a couple more than 5. And so, I mean, not many. I think I had 7 maybe. But I just don't want anybody to feel like, that we have to limit ourselves to 5 if there are 7 we want to interview, or 4 or 9 or whatever it is.
Well, it may,
If
yeah,
there's 7, there's a possibility that those extra 2 just may make the list.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Sure.
It may end up only being 5, really.
Sure.
I mean,
No,
I think.
I'm just saying, in our initial proposal, I just don't want anybody
I
to
see
feel
what you're
limited
saying. I
to
see what
5
you're
to
saying.
suggest in
Okay.
the
Yeah.
initial
Well, and the
proposal.
only thing I would add is the more discussion, the better, because I value everyone's
Absolutely.
opinion. And I know after looking at these, I'm even finding stuff that I didn't see the first time, and I'm sure there's stuff that so the more discussion, the better is all I would ask.
I agree.
Or
Yeah,
say.
on the last time, there was no set number of people to select. It was just anybody you wanted to talk to, and it got down from there and got
Perfect.
eliminated. So.
Okay. All right, well, I'll put the little slips of paper away then if we're just going to talk.
You're gonna write down the names? Is that what
I'll
you're
write
doing?
down the names, and
The only other thing I was going to suggest, Mayor, is can we go over the timeline first? Because I have a
Sure.
conflict. And
Sure, we can do that
That way we
first.
can just
That'll
get
work.
that.
Okay, so we'll, if I'd like to then call on the city manager to sort of lead us through this calendar, because I know we probably all have differing calendars. So, Mr. Schubert, if you don't mind, we'll.
Sure, Mayor. And I guess I'm just going to go through what I think the process is, and maybe that's helpful too. But so the job closed last Friday. We've got about 43 applications because one came in late. One of them rescinded the application, so I think we have 41 in play. Okay, so today the goal of this would be, as the mayor said, to build consensus on however many to interview, then also finalize the timeline with the dates while the full commission's here. So the next step after today would be at some point, at some point, the next meeting would be a meeting where when you all give me the 5, 7, 8 names, however many they are, 3 to 8, whatever, I'll send a background verification check. I guess I'll do it. Maybe the city attorney, I have no problems doing. I'll reach out to the candidates, see if they're still interested, talk about the date when we do set it up, explain the process to them, how they'll be interviewed, et cetera, but also get them to sign off on this background check, and then maybe also a credit check. That may be something we need to talk about. So the next meeting would be a meeting where, if we follow the structure of the last where these candidates would come to Lynn Haven if they're not already local, and they would have one-on-one interviews with the full commission in the offices over at City Hall, and you block off 4 or 5 hours, however long it's going to take, and then we'd have a special commission meeting where the commission could ask follow-up questions. The public can participate. They can certainly hear everything that's going on. They can ask a question, etc. And then that meeting's over. And then the meeting after that would be a meeting, again, a workshop before either a commission meeting or a special commission meeting where the commission would build consensus on their top pick. And then the following special commission meeting or commission meeting the mayor would entertain a motion for the mayor and city attorney to open negotiations with the top candidate, and then the meeting after that, the mayor would present the contract to the rest of the commission, and then it'd be voted on. Of course, all those actions in the special or the regular commission meeting would have to be voted on by the commission. So the next meeting, as we sit here today, the next meeting would be the interview day, which pretty much consumes a whole day. I would propose a difference from last time when obviously I participated in it. I don't know how much value was gained for a separate meeting that was just with the public. The commission wasn't there. There was really no agenda. I would suggest doing the one-on-one interviews with the commission and then bringing all the interviewees back to the commission room, and then the commission asks follow-up questions. I would eliminate the other step where there was just some meeting where the public was there. There wasn't really an agenda, and the 5 candidates just spoke.
But if I understood you correctly, at that second meeting, that the public would be allowed to have input, though, and ask
Absolutely.
questions? Okay,
Right.
perfect.
During the regular commission meeting.
So would this be the same meeting where we conduct the interview as a commission? Where last time each commissioner, had a set of questions that they ask?
Right. So
we're gonna-
you block off those 4 or 5 hours. We set each commissioner up in City Hall.
Right.
And rotate clockwise, counterclockwise, whatever. There's a schedule with the candidates, and each one of you have 30 to 45 minutes, whatever your pleasure is with each interviewee. Then after that, that's concluded, then there's a commission meeting where you ask follow-up questions, the public is available to ask questions, and that would be the day. And then from there, the next meeting would be building consensus on the top candidate.
But when we're actually doing the interviewing, are we going to allow the public to participate in that? Because that was one of the reasons why we had the separate meeting, so that the public had a chance to meet the candidate and ask them any questions at that time.
Yeah.
So that when we come back to the commission, then that gave the commission the opportunity to interview each candidate.
Right.
As if it was a...
And I'm just suggesting you combine those 2 activities into the one commission meeting where the public has a chance to ask questions and to listen to follow-up questions from the commission or to listen to the interviewees just in general. I'm just saying combine the 2 meetings where it's just the public and the interviewees into the commission meeting where you're asking follow-up questions.
I'm okay with that.
There was a lot of information that I thought might be helpful just as an aside that happened in that other meeting that I'm saying wasn't very productive, but the commission never knew about it. There were some folks saying some really great things and some folks saying some things that weren't so great. I think they can attest to that, but the commission knew nothing about it,
Well, and I hate to say this, but the July 6th is a scheduling conflict for me. And I'm okay with combining the 2. I'll start with that. But I was going on vacation. That's the only week my daughter's out of work. So that was the week we were going on summer vacation. So, and I think I talked about it with city manager, and I know we have another scheduling conflict here. So,
Yeah, I've got a conflict. This trip has been booked long before I even thought about running for commission. But I'm going to be going the 6th through the 14th of July. And it's unfortunately a trip that I can't get out of. Or I could get out of, but it would be exceptionally expensive.
Either one of you have access to distance technology, Skype, anything like that? Or?
I'm not opposed to that, and I certainly recognize my position and my commitment. I just didn't know if there was any other options before we go that direction. I am as I think I've mentioned several times, I'm a face-to-face guy. I really like talking to people one-on-one, and I would really miss the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with the top candidates. If I need to do that remotely, I could do that. I would ask that we do it by way of Skype or whichever our IT department thinks is most stable.
I would concur with that. I would prefer to be here, but I obviously know that it's my conflict, so I'll do whatever I got to do to make it work as far as Facebook or FaceTime or whatever we have to do.
I was looking at, the city manager gave me sort of a proposed or tentative, and he was saying that perhaps, and please let me know if you think this has changed, but when we spoke, the 29th would be that face-to-face, where you're interviewing each one individually, and so that's not a conflict for anybody, is it? If that came about?
The 29th.
Which will be Thursday of this week. That's what the city manager had proposed.
Oh, okay.
And then the 6th,
That this Thursday?
yes, that's, I mean,
Well,
we can
the
come
only-
back. And that may not be possible, but that's
Well,
what.
I was going to say.
And, I mean, that's 4 days from now, and, I mean, you know, people who applied are expecting that this is going to happen, you know. And then looking at the 6th of July, that would be the day consensus of a pick. So if we could do technology with the two of you at that time, then, you know, you would have already had your interviews.
Right.
And then, of course, the commission meeting on the 11th would be the, and my only thoughts are that at this point, Mr. Schubert is proposing that his last day is July 18th, which would, you know, and so that would keep us from having a lapse. But anyway, that's just some thoughts. It's certainly not. So anyway, I'll give it back to you.
Well, 6th, unfortunately, I will be on a plane, so it'll be hard to do technology. I mean, it's a 11-hour flight, so I'll be on a plane most of the day.
Yeah, and the only reason I kind of expanded the deal
Okay.
from today was I thought that folks might have to fly in.
Yeah,
You
Okay.
know,
that was my
So
concern.
you've expanded since we talked.
well,
I mean, that's not a
Maybe
negative.
so.
I'm just asking a question. No?
yeah,
Okay.
I put the July 6th day. You know, I was just
Well,
trying to get a starting point. Is my only
If we,
thing.
if we pushed everything back just a little bit, could we twist an arm for the city manager to stay to the 25th? And it just so happens that you signed the contract on the 25th, just saying. And, not real happy with you right now. There's a lot of apps right here. No, I'm just kidding. But I didn't know if that was an option for us to consider as well.
Well, just let me also throw this out there. I'm going to be out of town
Oh, here
the
we go.
week of the 17th. That's my annual men's trip.
And what do we have on the 17th?
Nothing. I'm
Oh.
just saying,
Oh.
I'm just letting you know during that week.
Oh, but no, but I think if we pushed everything back, that would push it into the 17th.
That's what
And I'm like you, I like the face-to-face too, so.
quiet.
Because we got two things on the 6th, and you're saying you're on a plane, so you couldn't attend. You're not going to be able to attend the special commission meeting.
On the 6th.
On the
it would be
6th,
impossible
either
to get a
way.
plane, yeah. I mean, you
So
could-
it sounds like, it sounds like we almost need to move the 6th, or you're going to miss the special meeting. I would concede and do Skype. I have no problems with that. And if there's any possible way that I can get back for the 6th, just to be here for that one day, I will make that attempt as well.
Is that what we're looking at as far as the individual interviews now, is July 6th? I'm just asking the question.
Yes, ma'am, that's what's on this right
I'm
here.
sorry, I didn't get that. Thank
Okay,
you.
Sorry. And it's that 6th is what I had issue with, because I'll be out the 2nd through the 8th.
It's Monday.
You're going the 2nd through the 8th.
Yeah.
The 6th through the 14th.
6th through
and
the
you're the
14th.
17th through the,
Well, I'm actually leaving the 18th through the 21st.
Could you do the 17th?
22nd.
Could you do the 17th?
I can do the 17th.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then we would either have to ask the city manager to stay for the 25th, or we could just have an interim city manager for the one meeting.
Well, the 17th, the mayor is not available, and
Oh,
the reason I'm
okay.
not is because I scheduled around when scheduled commission
Right.
meetings are and all that, so.
I understand. And it's totally, we got this, and I looked at it and reached out to the city manager, but it's just is what it is. Like I said, I have no problem So what are we thinking for date? I mean, I have no problem doing the 6th on, but anyway.
You can't vote by proxy. You can vote by interactive means. And so that means you have to have a majority of the commission here present.
Yeah.
And then you can attend by telephone or Skype or whatever options are available.
Well, and I would just suggest, and again, consulting with the IT department, I would just want to Skype for the interviews if the applicants weren't, and I'm sure most would not be in today's environment. I know a lot of, they've probably already interviewed by telephone several times, I would think. But I don't have to Skype for the commission meeting. I could just phone in for that. If the IT thinks that's too much to Skype during the commission meeting, I would just be available to phone in for that. And I could, and truth be, I could also phone in for the interview portions as well. I like face-to-face. But that doesn't help you.
Is the 5th out of the question? July 5th for interviews?
I'll be out of town on the 5th.
You're out of town on the 5th?
And technically, I would be out of town on the 5th as well. And that's when you leave, is on the 5th.
The night of the 5th.
The night of the 5th, I see what you're
What
saying.
I need to be the 5th, it's just the morning of the 6th. I'm hopefully where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
I think anybody who's applied for this position will be here whenever we say, this is interview time. If they want the job, they just need to be here. So we just,
We're going to pay, I'm assuming we're paying for the travel, yes or no?
No,
No?
at least that wasn't discussed. I'm just throwing this out there too. I mean, to Commissioner Tender's comment, would you entertain them Skyping in? I mean, I wouldn't do it, but like a candidate.
That's up to everyone.
I mean, if we wanted to keep it to this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean,
But where will you be available? So what date are we talking?
Well, the mayor originally talked about maybe towards the end of this week.
Oh, on the 29th. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, as long as everybody would be ready by the 29th, which I would be, sure. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
we do it all the time, school system.
That's the thing.
And in the corporate world, I think quite frequently people phone or Skype in rather than having to pay to fly cross country or whatever, so.
It's travel expenses.
Absolutely.
I'm good with that too. I mean, tell the ones that can be here to be here and the ones that can't. You know?
The only caveat with that is I would not have a background check completed by then, but I don't know that that's a
By the
huge.
29th,
But we won't be
Thursday.
hiring then. I mean, we're just
Right.
getting information
Right.
so we can do the background check.
Right, whenever those come in, I could certainly send those for them too.
Everybody good with
that's the
that?
time when everybody will be here, so.
On the 29th?
29th, we're saying interviews on the 29th. Awesome. And then I'll call in for the 6th on the special commission meeting. No, you
yeah,
can't do
just-
that.
No, I won't.
you're on
I'll
a
be on the
plane.
plane.
So either have to move the special commission meeting or you have to miss the
So
special.
you're going to split the interviews in the special commission meeting?
Yes, I think that's what
So
we're.
July
just-
6th will still be a special commission
Oh,
meeting?
I don't know. Well, I guess that's the next topic.
It'd be difficult for the public to Skype with candidates, I believe. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I still think that we just need to have the public meet with them at a separate meeting. And that way they can have the opportunity that, ask whatever questions that they want to ask. I mean, I know you went through that process last time, and I know you,
Some of you voted for a fellow that said some really questionable things.
Well, and that's what I was about to
From
say.
my
I
point,
remember.
And you didn't know.
I can appreciate that, but I really would like the opportunity to see a potential city manager interact with the people that we serve. I would really appreciate that opportunity. So,
but they're going to be at their best.
well, not if, it all depends on what question they get from
I agree with
from the
Commissioner
public.
Friend.
That would be the real person. I mean,
Yeah, but you're not, you as a commissioner is not going to see the real person if they're in a separate meeting with the public anyway. And then if the public comes to you and say, well, you're not going to believe what that candidate just said, or what that applicant just said to me, then you're, and then it's after the interview, so you can't ask the applicant, hey, did you really say that? So I don't know. I like,
No. Yeah, can't they film it all like
Why?
they do the
I've
meetings,
asked them.
commission meetings,
Well, that's my point.
with the public?
Ma'am?
Can't they film it like commission meetings? We can always go back and look at it.
You can live stream it if you want.
I still wouldn't give up the opportunity to see an applicant interact with the public. Because that's what he does every 2 weeks. And that's very important, very important. And we had, and just to back up a little bit, we had some of that anyway. I mean, we did have the public, during the commission meeting, where we as a commission had follow-up questions, which I really enjoyed because Commissioner Barnes may ask a question during an interview that I didn't ask. Commissioner Tender may ask. So I really enjoy that as well. I think that's very important. But, so it does, I mean, if we had the separate meeting with the public and the applicants, I don't think that that does away with the opportunity for the public to continue to ask the applicant a question during the commission meeting, so. Unless they're Skyping, then it does. So that's where we moved the special meeting.
So can we go back just to recap? And I do agree with what you said. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I do, Commissioner Friend, I too would like to see that interaction. Moving to, back to where we were. So the city manager is going to notify the commission of his top candidates today, which in a few minutes, and then we're going to notify each other. But the 29th or the 6th is when we want to do the interview for the candidates. That's what we need, if we could just kind of hone in on this a little bit.
If we do it on the 29th, then everyone will be here.
Yes. So do we need a vote, or is there consensus that the 29th would be a good day for interviewing individually the candidates? Anybody opposed to that?
Fine by me.
Okay, so
That's great.
let's scratch through the 6th and make that the 29th then. And then, so on that same day, 5 p.m. is a special commission meeting for the commission to ask further follow-up questions and for the public to participate. Hopefully, I would hope that these top candidates are going to be quite technically savvy. And hopefully most of them would be here on that date personally. But for those who are not, I think it would be very pertinent, especially if we're talking to somebody from Arizona or Walla Walla, Washington, some of the places that I saw on the interviews, the resumes rather, that we explain to the public that the fact that they're speaking by Skype is not in any way saying that they're not interested in the position, but it's just simply a matter of whatever their time problems were, or maybe even financial for that, saving money and time for everyone. So does everyone agree that that would be a feasible way to handle this? To have the 5 p.m. special commission meeting for the commission to ask further follow-up questions and for the public to participate. Commissioner Barnes, could you live with that? I mean, you were kind of the one, is that good with you? Okay, and everybody else is good with that?
And what's the date on that meeting?
That would be also on that same date, right? July 29th at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
We would be interviewing all day, take a little break, and then we'd have that meeting.
Oh, July 29th.
Or June.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I wrote
June.
July. I apologize.
That's okay.
June. But we
sorry.
would meet public
We'll have to
notification.
We'll have to notice that right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do that like tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, yeah. And of course, did anybody remember the public?
And it can go on city website tonight, on Facebook tonight, and we can project it on some other ways as well. Get it out in every way possible.
Okay.
I just wanted to say,
Sure.
I appreciate y'all accommodating
absolutely.
my
Of
dates,
course.
and I'm not going to be here.
Of course.
No, it's on me as well. So thank you all.
It's a busy time for everyone, and, okay, so then that would get us through that meeting now,
Then we're back to July the 11th.
which is a regular commission meeting. And so then we'd be at this time, single-issue workshop for us to come to consensus for a top candidate, and then 2 hours later at the commission meeting, somebody would hopefully bring forth a motion for us to negotiate a contract with that candidate.
It's acceptable for me to call in for that?
Yes.
You're able to?
The commission will have to vote to approve, but I would assume they would have, maybe I'm assuming too
Just
much, but I think
depends.
they would assume.
Depends on how we feel at the
I
time.
think they'll. Okay. So is everybody good with the dates? So for the good of the public then,
Well-
just understanding that on June the 29th, that the commission members will be individually interviewing each of these candidates over at City Hall for this position. And we'll see how many we come up with for our list today, and then we'll know what our timeline will look like. We may be able to start at 10 o'clock, or we might have to start at some savage hour like 7:30 or something to get it going there. And then
2 hours by then.
on July the 11th, our regularly scheduled commission meeting at 4 p.m. will be in the same place again, around this table, with a single-issue workshop for us to build consensus after the interviews and after the public interview, to name a top candidate to fill Mr. Schubert's shoes if they can do that. And then at 6 p.m., we will ask for a motion and a vote on someone so that we can move to negotiate a contract. Okay? Is everybody good with that?
Yes, ma'am. But we do have July the 18th is the city manager's last day. Do we have a start date for the new city manager?
I would propose that after we
Maybe part of the negotiations, actually.
yes, I definitely think whoever it is needs to start on, the day after he leaves. I mean, we don't want any break if possible, but if we could get them here even earlier to have a few days, to spend with the city manager, I think that would be great. So we can talk about that as we move along, don't you think?
The only problem with that is I noticed some of the applications, they are currently working, so they're going to have to give their employer notice, so they may not be able to make it by that date.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Which we got a good team. They can step up and handle it for a
Sure.
week or two. Yeah.
Or,
And Mayor, just so I'm clear, on the 29th, in 2 days, we're going to have the 5 o'clock special commission meeting
After the interviews.
after the interviews.
yes. So that would be on the 29th,
I just want to make sure.
and that, yes.
I guess the start date or duration depend on how many you all come out with today.
Yes.
If it's 7, 8, 5, 10.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
is It would either be a savage time like 7:30 a.m. or 10.
We have to be done by 4:30 because I have a bike ride at 5. Just saying. Sorry. I know, I'm just
You may
kidding.
have to do that early in the morning.
That's right, I did that today.
Okay. Shall we move forward then with proposing candidates? And if I understood correctly, I believe that the consensus was that we would just do this out loud instead of writing it down. If you write it down, they're still going to call it out loud at some point during the meeting. I was just facilitating it.
I'll be glad to start if nobody else wants to.
Please go ahead.
I ended up, out of all of them, only coming up with 4 that I would like to talk to. And that would be Timothy Day, Larry Newsom, Michael White, and Jeff Wilkins. I have not rated those 4, but that's the 4 that, out of all of them, that's the 4 that piqued my interest.
What was the last one? I'm sorry?
Jeff Wilkins.
Wilkins?
What was the first one?
Timothy Day,
Day. Mhm.
Larry Newsom, Michael White, and Jeff Wilkins.
Anyone else?
I have Timothy Bennett, Ben Newhouse, Larry Newsom, Dale Walker, and Michael White.
Dell Walker?
Dale Walker.
Dale.
Yes.
If everyone's ready, I'll go next, if that's okay. Timothy Bennett, Michael White, Jeff Wilkins, Ben Newhouse.
Third one, sorry?
I'm sorry, Jeff Wilkins.
Jeff Wilkins.
Yes, sir.
I can give mine next if nobody's ready. I only have 3. Brian Davis, Pamela Hiller, and Micah, is it Jeter? Getter. Getter.
First name on that?
Micah.
Micah. And then the second one, ma'am?
Pamela Hiller.
Hillard. I'm sorry, Micah, I'm sorry again.
My CHA.
Susan McLaughlin. Brian Davis. Larry Newsom. Sorry, I didn't have mine listed. I'm having to go through my little stack here. Michael White. And Dale Walker.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Don't
that's-
mind.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
And you-
I'm
you want-
sorry,
I don't-
City
I don't-
Manager.
Oh.
No, I don't.
I know that you
I don't
spent
get a
some
vote.
time with this. You do get to put forth your thoughts.
I think you guys have a lot of great candidates there. I mean, I matched a lot of them. I mean, I don't really get a vote.
You have a list?
Yeah, I do.
We'd be interested in your list.
I've got Michael White, not in any particular order, Michael White, Ben Newhouse, Jeff Wilkins, Timothy Bennett,
Ooh, slow down.
Yeah, well,
What was the third one?
Jeff Wilkins,
Wilkins.
Timothy Bennett, Charles Kelm, and Pamela Hiller.
Pamela who?
It was White, Walker, Bennett,
White, Nelson, Walker, Bennett,
Nelson,
Newhouse.
Newhouse.
Newsom.
Newsom.
Or Newhouse.
Newhouse.
Am I-
Newhouse.
The fellow from
Newhouse.
I think it's
West
Newhouse.
Virginia, is it?
That's
I apologize, yeah.
What was your fifth one, though?
Timothy Bennett,
Bennett.
Pam Hilliard,
Hiller.
One in between.
yeah, Charles Kelm,
Thank you.
Charles.
Elm. That's the one.
Aelm.
That's the one I didn't
So
have.
it's White, Wilkins, Bennett, Newhouse, Hillard, Helm.
My backup stack. Let's see how many are in my backup.
Is anyone from the public having difficulty hearing? Can everybody hear okay? Okay, good.
Anybody on all of our lists?
Commissioner Friend, your first one was Tim Bennett, is that right?
Yes, sir. Timothy Bennett. Madison, Florida.
All right, let me just confirm to make sure I don't miss anybody. Commissioner Russell, it's Timothy Day, Larry Newsom, Michael White, Jeff Wilkins,
Perfect.
Shad, or excuse me, I can't even read my own hand. Barnes. Tim Bennett. Yep. Ben Newsom.
Yep. Or Newhouse.
Newhouse.
Ben Newsom.
Larry Newsom.
Yep.
Dale Walker.
Yep.
Michael White.
Yes.
Commissioner Friend is Tim Bennett, Michael White, Ben Newhouse, and Jeff Wilkins. Commissioner Tender is Davis. Is that a
Brian Davis.
Ryan?
Mhm.
Pamela Hilliard?
Hiller.
Hiller. Micah Getter?
I guess Getter.
And then the mayor was Ms. McLaughlin. Is that right?
Yes.
Susan McLaughlin, Brian Davis, Dale Walker, Larry Newsom, and Michael White.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the city manager, I went through that with him. Michael White, Jeff Walker, Tim Bennett, Ben Newhouse.
Jeff Wilkins.
Jeff Wilkins.
Brendan Wilkins or Walker?
I've got Wilkins.
It's
Yeah.
Wilkins, yeah. Pam Hiller, and Charles Kelm. Okay. Let me figure out here. Step one. Two or more. I'm going to list the candidates who got two or more votes.
Sorry about that.
All right, the candidates that got two or more votes from the commissioners are Michael White, Larry Newsom, Jeff Wilkins, Tim Bennett, Ben Newhouse, Dale Walker, and Brian Davis. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Did you say Jeff Wilkins?
Jeff Wilkins.
He got
He get
three.
two.
He got
Yeah.
three. He got Joel.
Oh, yeah, I
he
said
got-
him.
yeah.
I said him up front. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm-
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm missing a couple, I'm sorry. Start with Bennett,
Sure.
Newhouse.
Michael White,
Mhm.
Larry Newsom, Jeff Wilkins, Tim Bennett, Ben Newhouse, Dale Walker, and Brian Davis.
Clarify, that's the commission.
This is the commission vote, yeah.
Oh,
excluding-
I'm-
This
I'm-
this is just
No, I'm
information
and I
here.
can add the city managers in there if you want. I mean, that's up to y'all.
My personal feeling is that we can look at what the city manager has recommended, and if anyone within the commission wants to change your vote or add to it, in other words, you want to add more than what you had based on what, Mr. Schubert has said, but I do not think his vote needs to be included with the commission vote. No offense, Mr. Schubert. But if anyone wants to take into account, something that Mr. Schubert
Yeah.
said as far as a candidate and add or subtract from your list, certainly you may do that.
You mind running down and giving us the numbers,
What numbers? Sure.
if it's possible?
Yeah, Michael White got 4.
No, hold on.
Okay.
Larry Newsom got 3. I think those are the only two that got more than 3.
2.
The rest of them got two?
The rest of them all got 2.
And this is Larry Newsom, right?
Larry Newsom.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, because I think we had,
That's 7 total.
7.
Ben. Yeah, that's what I thought.
okay.
I had Newsom and Newhouse.
Yeah. I think it's Larry Newsom, yeah, and then Newhouse, yeah. Larry and
Here was,
So, Mr. City
Emily
Manager,
Hiller.
who was your pick since you have input?
hello.
I'm sorry.
Who were the people that you have chosen on your list?
I had Michael White, Ben Newhouse, Jeff Wilkins, Timothy Bennett, Charles Kelm, and Pamela Hiller.
Okay, so since the charter says you have an input but no vote, and you're not really voting on anything, I think we can use his input to help eliminate some of this in here. if that's agreeable with the commission.
Anyone have a disagreement with listening to some of the input? I think he had
Oh,
some
no, not
ranking
at
and some
all.
numbers. You want to do any of that, or you just wanted to just name just what?
No, I just hadn't.
And not only Mr. Schubert's input, but if anyone at the table as a commissioner, if you have some input that you really feel you'd like to put forward about one of yours, please do that.
Are we limited to 5 candidates?
No.
So we only have 8 here if we use your input, include Pamela Hiller.
We have 8 or 7?
Seven's what I got.
7.
I got 7.
7 is, there are 2 or more.
Okay.
Include there's 4 of those are in the city manager's recommendations. There's 2 that are not, listed, Pam Hillard and
Yeah.
Hiller and Charles Kelm.
Right.
If,
And there's 3 that were not recommended by the city manager that are on the commission's list.
I'm looking for Hiller.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Joel, could you look at your notes and see what,
I don't think Pam was her first name, was it?
It's Pamela. She's local.
Pamela Sue Hiller, Fairfield.
I believe she serves on our, I believe she's the chair on the half-cent sales tax committee. She has a
here it is.
military background.
okay, yeah, okay, I got her. Thank you. And what is, did you have that was making her your top, or putting her on your list? Did you have anything that you want to share that stuck out to you?
Educated, credentialed, leadership. I mean, she had a lot of the strengths. The only thing I saw that she didn't have is utilities, potentially. I'd have to look back at her resume.
No, that's fine. I was just, if you had it,
Her last job was advanced medical support assistant at the Veterans Healthcare Administration, and she left that job in April of 2016,
for a year ago.
according to her resume.
I don't,
Just
Full disclosure, I don't know her well, but I've seen her in the community, but I've also seen her here running a meeting, and I thought she did very well.
I certainly have no objection to her being added to the list since one of the commissioners recommended her as one of their top, and Commissioner Tender only has 3 listed, so as one of her tops. And then with the city manager's support on that, I would hope that, we would have an opportunity to possibly interview her. That's my input. If anyone else has something you'd like to add to that.
Is it our intent to interview all 8 of these, or are we?
Whoever we come to consensus
Okay,
today
okay.
on, we will be interviewing
interview.
individually, calling them, or at least calling them and inviting them for an interview.
So then you're just talking about wanting to add her to the short list to start with, right?
Yes.
so we would have 8 instead of, and
Or more.
Or
If there's
more.
anyone feels strongly about that you feel, that you would like to see face to face, I think this is the time to state that and make a case for that, so.
Joe, one more time, tell me the people you had. You had White,
Newhouse, Wilkins, Bennett, Kelm, Kelm, and Hiller.
so Kelm and Hill's the only 2 I didn't have. Kelm, do you have the short on her?
Yeah, give me just a second.
While I'm looking for it, look for my stuff. And did anyone else have her, I guess, would be the question. 'Cause
I did.
Okay.
She wasn't on your list.
She's not on,
She was on my list.
Not the list you gave us.
I only gave you 3.
She
I think
she
we're
called it
talking
out.
about Kelm? Yeah,
Oh,
Kelm.
Kelm, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about
yeah.
that first.
No, I'm sorry.
Charles Kelm.
Charles, yeah.
He was not on my list.
Well, so,
Which
no
one,
offense,
everybody?
but that would be a tough,
Deputy Director, Air Force Civil Engineering Center, Trinidad Air Force Base,
I remember
Florida,
that.
2016 to present is his current job.
I remember, okay.
Good for infrastructure.
He's a commander of the 87 Mission Support Group, 3,700 personnel.
I'm having a little trouble.
Okay. He was a commander of the 87 Mission Support Group. It's similar to a city manager based in New Jersey, led and supervised 3,700 personnel in 6 uniquely different organizations, organizational support, infrastructure, 38,000 people and 4,000 facilities across 42,000 acres.
Budget
So
expense.
do I
utilities.
understand, just for my clarification, do I understand that there's no set number of candidates that we are not going to?
Or that we are going to interview.
Right.
Right, no, we have not set it up.
I made that recommendation at the beginning and just asked if there was any objection to that. I'm just saying I would hate for us to limit us to 5 candidates if we had members of the commission who felt strongly about 2 or 3 others. I don't want us to interview 31, but.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm coming from is, if you take Joel's input in this, I mean, everybody's pretty much have said, you've got 4 candidates, well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got 4 pretty much strong ones, okay? So now, I mean, if you want to just interview the others, that's fine, or, because of the time frame, do we want to just kind of really, cut it off at some point and really go with those strong people?
Well, I think we have, this is my feeling, we have 7 listed right now, and we're considering adding, if I heard right, Pamela Hiller, because both the city manager and one of our sitting commissioners who only asked for 3 candidates to interview, ask for that candidate. So I'm just saying 5 and 7 candidates, it's not that big of a difference, it's not that much more time involved, and this city manager is going to serve this entire commission, and everybody on the commission needs to feel good about the interview process. So for the sake of our time or our convenience, I don't want to exclude 2 candidates for interviews, is what I'm saying.
Well, I would agree with that, Mayor, and just say, I mean, since the city manager and a commissioner had Hiller, for instance, if we add Hiller, we have 8. That's an 8-hour day, and I agree with you. I don't care about how much time it takes. We have to get it right. So I would have no problems with adding and doing 8.
And I have to say, as much as I love to talk, there is no way that I could talk to each of these people 45 minutes.
They may talk to you for 45 minutes.
I'll have a set amount, I'll have set questions to ask them, and
Yeah.
then I'll be done.
But
And it makes assumption that all 8 say they're still interested as well.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they might not be.
And
It might be
background check.
5 anyway.
We haven't
Well, yeah,
done,
and we probably need to look at different things, like Kilm is not available until October. So unless you're willing to wait till October to hire a city manager, that would preclude him from even needing to be interviewed.
yeah,
So,
and that's why he didn't make, I remember that.
That's why I didn't put him in
He
my
didn't
list.
make, and budget, and there's others. But I'm okay with this 8, personally. If we add Hiller,
I am too.
Judy Tender, and Mr. Commissioner
I
Tender.
mean,
and-
I'm fine, I just think.
Yeah, I agree.
We just
I-
need
I
to
know.
kind of.
Yeah, I agree. But
So,
yeah,
Mr.,
look,
go ahead.
no, I was
No,
just
go
gonna-
ahead, please.
Before we make the decision to pick these 8, are there any comments that anybody wants to make? And my question to you is what's open game to talk about and what's not open game to talk about? I don't want to get the city into trouble by saying
Sure.
something.
Last time, I had put out a memo, and I'll just update that to all the commissioners about kind of conducting interviews and what things you can and cannot talk about. There's a lot of misperceptions out there about what you can't talk about in interviews. I mean, my opinion is that a lot of it is open, but everything should be related to the city. So, or that person's his or her duties to the city. So, stuff that obviously things that aren't related, like
What church do you go to
what
is not
church you go
related.
to, those are not related.
Well, then I'll throw something out there. I narrowed my list down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. And then I went back and Googled each one of these people to see what I could find on them. Timothy Bennett was on my list of my 10. And in the process of Googling him, and I've got the source here if you want to go back and look at it, but they said that he was the city manager of Madison, Florida. And they continually had budget issues while he was city manager. So that raised a red flag for me, and that's why he got called off my list. If you want to Google it, the source for that is WCTV, is the news outlet that put that out. So
that being said, that's not an invalid question during an interview.
City
No,
business.
I mean, I think that it's expected. City managers have short lifespans typically. When it comes to cities, there's politics. And
Yes.
obviously, as you all know, is a dangerous business sometimes. And so there's a lot of things out there that may not be true or may be true or very useful and fair game for interviews and discussion.
And of course, we're going to do background, criminal background check, right? So any arrests and things like that are going to pop up there. And a credit background.
And I had suggested a credit.
That's a good
If
one,
they're going
too.
to be looking at a $25 million budget, perhaps a credit check is a good thing. And just to follow up on what Mr. Jackson just said, one of my candidates that I put forward, Susan McLaughlin, that I had suggested, she had changed positions twice within a very short period of time. But again, as Mr. Jackson said, commissioners and mayors really determine the longevity of city managers. So sometimes it's not so much about their credibility or their abilities as it is, the wishes of the commission. So I didn't exclude her because of that until I had the opportunity. I wanted to ask her about.
Well, there was actually a reason why she did that. While she was at the second job, she was carjacked and didn't feel comfortable there, so she moved jobs because of that.
And I'm not even sure that some of that is accurate. So that was some interest.
And that's what I like about the open discussion, because I had her not in my top, but I had her toward the top, and she definitely gets the resume award. She had the best resume of everybody. That thing's amazing. So, but anyway,
Well, I thought
as far as the
I thought the content was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, it is. But
And I'll get out that memo to you all tomorrow. Since they're
okay. So we have our 8.
And if I may just add one thing, I checked with our IT person, Mr. Hill, and depending on how many of these interviewees want to Skype in, we might have an issue. So, I mean, we'll set up hopefully there's only 2 or 3, but we'll set those up in a Skype room or whatever. So we might have to maybe move some of you around, but I'll come up with a plan.
So just for the benefit of the public and the media who is here, would you please correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but the 8 candidates we will be interviewing and considering for the position of city manager, if they accept our invitation, is Mr. White, Mr. Newsom, Mr. Wilkins, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Newhouse, Mr. Walker, Mr. Davis, and Ms. Hiller. Is that correct?
That's what I have.
Joel, something you may want to mention too, if these guys are on Eastern time, make sure you tell them the correct time.
That we're in a little pocket of central
Yeah,
time
exactly.
here. So if everyone is okay or content with this list, if no one else has someone that if you feel very strongly there's someone else you want to add, I mean, this is your moment to speak. Otherwise, we'd like to maybe have a motion to put forth this list. Do we need a motion?
Well, because of the workshop, there's 2 different commission actions. It has to be at a commission meeting, so I'll just bring it up as part of my report, if that's okay during the commission.
That will be fine.
Yeah, and get a motion to approve it.
Okay. Okay.
But I have the same names you do.
It could come forward this evening, though, on our commission meeting, is what I'm saying, if we have a motion for, okay, thank you, okay. I'm
And I
sorry,
think-
miscommunicated.
Just to add a note, with that motion, I think we should mention the June 29th date of interviews.
workshop.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further business to be discussed at the workshop? Okay, then we will adjourn until 6 p.m. this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you might all like to come back for the commission meeting at 6. Thank you very much for coming.